Hi, this is Mark News from Plant Talk Radio. Thanks for subscribing and listening to our podcast, Your Gardening Questions from Plant Talk Radio. If you have a gardening question you'd like our host Fred Howard to answer, send him an email. The email address is fred@planttalkradio.com. Now for today's question.
Oh, I got a question about fertilizing acid-loving plants.
All right.
I know, with using water-soluble, but how much, is there a measurement on how much water-soluble fertilizer you need to put on a plant? Do you go by the trunk diameter, or how do you know when enough is enough to water?
Well, Dan, that is a very, very good question, and it's one that's very difficult to answer. Now, let's start off with the average 3-year-old azalea or rhododendron. They're established long enough now to have roots that are probably out to the drip line on the plants. That is, of course, good, and we'll hope the plant is sturdy at that point. Now, you would want to fertilize a ways out. Well, first of all, the water solubles are one of my choices for sure, and that is whichever brand you like. Stay with the recommendation of probably something in the ballpark of a tablespoon to the gallon. Now, when you are putting the fertilizer on, it depends on whether the area is mulched or not, etc. And we have to allow that on azaleas, rhododendrons, and most other acid-loving plants are going to be relatively shallow-rooted. I have had the unfortunate occasion to have to take out some big old plants over time, and their roots on great big rhododendron were only down about 14 inches. So let's just say that most of our plants will have roots in the top 12. It would be my best guess that one bucket, being a 2-gallon bucket, would be enough for each of those plants, and be sure to apply it outside of the branch reach by about 6 or 8 inches so that you get some acid fertilizer moving through the area the roots will grow into, as well as back underneath. And I don't think you have to be particularly cautious, but at the same time, I would not intentionally pour it on the trunk. I don't think it would cause any problem, but let's just say that we'll avoid any possibility of that. Now, if that doesn't answer your question, we go on from there to where it's a best guess. I'm going to tell you that when you apply it, it would be good to do it soon after a rain. I don't mean the following hour, but the next day or two, where the soil is already open and somewhat more porous. Pour the fertilizer on to where you are quite comfortable that you're getting sufficient numbers of gallons, and each gallon then having been diluted properly, it's just a matter of wetting the soil. Wetting the soil down to that 1 foot range, which I'm going to guess on most plants, 1 or 2 buckets full is going to be plenty. On bigger things, if you get into the sweet bay magnolia or something like that, that can be acid fertilized, it would be good. You get into the dogwood, those, when they get up into the, let's call it 2, 3, 4 inch trunk diameter, you want to go again, I think pretty much based on width of the crown of the tree or the leaves, drip line, and then go beyond the drip line to get the acid process started, and be sure you have just wet the entire area up to the trunk or near it, and I think you'll have done a sufficient job. Now, there is a next step. You can use a few not tablespoons full, but cups full of powdered sulfur also. I have used only powdered sulfur for the last 5 or 6 years on my few azaleas and rhododendrons, and that's been the extent of what they've gotten. I haven't used any acid fertilizer because I've been for years now acidifying that soil with sulfur, and that's a matter of just dusting it on. I would say on my largest rhododendron, which is my shoulder height and I don't know, 3.5 feet across, I wouldn't use more than a cupful, shaken again out around to the drip line and then back in toward the trunk, and just keep the acidification going. So hope that helps, Dan.
Yeah. How often should you maybe do this fertilization?
Well, I would tell you that there are two ideal times. And one, let's just go with water-soluble fertilizer at the moment. I would tell you that over the course of a year, you would put it on some in the mid to late March period, jacket-type weather, prior to the bloom period. Then right now would be almost ideal because they have finished blooming. I'd put on what we'll call the other half at that point in time. Again, it absolutely avoids any chance of root burn and so on. So spring is the ideal time for acid fertilizer.
Hey, thanks again for listening to our podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our other podcasts as well, the Plant of the Week podcast and the Plant Talk Radio podcast, all on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. If you'd like to sponsor a daily podcast, contact us at fred@planttalkradio.com. To find out more about Fred Hauer and Plant Talk Radio, visit our website, planttalkradio.com.
Hi, this is meteorologist Jennifer Naramore. You hear my daily forecast. Now you can check out our podcast about one of nature's most fascinating phenomenon, tornadoes. You'll hear from scientists, storm chasers, and storm survivors. Plus, stories never told before. They're so riveting you can see them in your mind. They can happen anywhere in the world, any day of the year. Don't miss the next episode of Tornado Talk.
Circle270media.com.